No one getting married
none
wouldn't affect the divorce rates.
Law, morals, none of it matters in the mathematical argument. If it is true that even if like there's still going to be high rates of divorce, the fact that men are becoming more conservative, this is going to apply a pressure that over a long period of time, there will be attrition away from divorce and abortion and all of these things. They'll still exist. They'll still exist for a while. But over a long enough period of time, if the math is trending this direction, even if it's 0.1%, this is why casinos make money. Yeah. Most of these games are 49, if the casino has a 50.5% chance to win to your 49.5, they don't care if they lose $1,000 because over the long enough period of time, they make money no matter what.
Yeah, I just think that's selling dreams. Okay, guess. 10 years from now, are there going to be more single mothers or less single mothers? Guess. More or less?
More. In 10 years, more.
Okay. In 10 years time, wait, I want to go through these.
It's not going to happen, like you said, in our lifetime,
Correct.
it's not going to be corrected that quickly. But this I think will accelerate because men are realizing they don't have to play these games and they don't have to participate in the system. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have, and Lauren talked with my husband about this, is the fact that throughout all of human history, marriage used to be a contract between two families. It had sacramental and religious and spiritual significance. It's a contract through the state. It's a license you get at your county. That's 100 years old. This is a very new idea. It failed miserably. We shouldn't be surprised that everyone's getting divorced because who cares about your silly contract through this? It's like a roommate agreement. It's easier to get out of than a cell phone contract.
It's easier.
Meaningless.
It is easier to get out of a marriage than it is to get out of a lease.
It is.
How insane.
It really is.
For women.
Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah.
So I think another thing you're going to see, another trend we're going to see, because men are going back to religion as well at a higher rate than women. Like serious traditional churches are seeing a huge influx. Like the Orthodox Church, I think 80% of our new converts are like young men.
That's great.
Women are going to like Wicca and astrology and all this garbage nonsense. But men are going back to like the traditional churches. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, I will marry you through my church. We will have an ecclesiastical marriage where our church and our community kind of govern the terms and enforce the contract rather than just going through the state.
Yeah, I just wouldn't predict it because even if you do that, you can't out-religion the state. At the end of the day, the state is still the enforcement arm. And if you have children in this country, they're not yours.
The state doesn't matter. All that matters is cultural enforcement. That's why.
No, it does matter.
That's
it
why
does
it's
matter.
like in Boston, for instance, it's illegal to put a pie on your windowsill on Sunday, but everybody does. There are a bunch of blue laws that exist on the books but are never enforced.
Right.
It's because people fear more social than they do legal. For instance, why are criminals still going around raping and murdering and shooting despite the death penalty? They don't care. But why is it that cancel culture dramatically shifted major parts of our market for the past 10 years, only up until now? Why did Target abandon, in many of their locations, the Pride section? Cultural enforcement is stronger. When you have people who grow up in a rural community going to church, and that there's a man and a woman, and they think to themselves, if we get divorced, it is going to cause major cultural problems for us at church, at community, and our bake sales, in the fire department. We can't live with that. We have to deal with it. The pressure is on them. If you're in a big city, perhaps yes, but cultural enforcement dictates how people behave. If they could pass a law, and as long as there were cops in Seattle. Antifa was threatening a guy. The guy's backing up, and he's like pointing at him as he backs away. Cops jump out of their car, arrest the victim. Why? Because the social order in Seattle and Portland is we do not take action against the far left mobs. So the cops' mentality is, if I go after the protesters, I'm going to get into a fight. People are going to get mad at me. And then I'll be on the news as attacking peaceful protesters. Just arrest the victim and it all stops.
But there is no cultural enforcement that shames women for doing that. I can even look at conservatives. I mean, I have a list here of all the conservatives that are divorced. It's not, I mean, look at how we handled the Crowder situation. Look at Lauren Southern. She just got an article written about her poor divorce story. There's no shame, even from conservatives, for divorce.
I think the movement for like abolishing no-fault divorce, though, I think it is gaining traction. I'm hearing about it more and more, and it's partly due to people like you, but I think there are more and more conservatives who weren't really thinking about this. It's not like they supported it, but that it just wasn't on their radar, and I think it's starting to become part of the conversation where, hey, maybe we should talk about this in a way that 10 years ago it wasn't even being mentioned. So I'm actually somewhat hopeful that maybe in the future we could do something about that. I think that is a meaningful change that we could make that would, again, I'm not advocating for state marriage, but for those of people who do care about government marriage but are concerned about that, I think that actually is something we could change.
Yeah, I think it sounds. I hate to be a pessimist. I just don't see any evidence that's happening. That's like we could say we want that to happen, but it's not like a wish list.
I have a question. What is the number one podcast among women?
Probably some murder one.
Probably Call Her Daddy.
Yeah,
That's got to be because they were close.
correct.
They were close to Joe Rogan.
And what do they talk about on that show?
Sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
how to give proper blowjobs.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild because
and she just got married. That's a crazy thing.
I was thinking about this because it is largely true crime. Women listen to a lot of murder mysteries. But I think was it Call Her Daddy?
Yeah.
And it's like kind of vapid, degenerate sex talk. And what do guys listen to? No question, it's Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
And what does Joe Rogan talk about?
Protein, MMA. My husband
mean,
loves
really?
Joe Rogan.
And cultural news and political news.
Yeah.
And so I bring that up because I'm willing to bet the majority of people listening to this show right now are dudes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because on YouTube, my audience is probably for my political channel around 80% male, and that I was excited when I started my pop culture entertainment channel. I was like, finally, I can have more girl audiences because we're just talking about movies. No, 95% male. So I don't know. I guess I'm not talking about the right movies.
Yeah.
Or the right activities.
Yeah, so I had a question with the Crowder case. I told you I was going to bring this up. Why, you said on stream there's some information behind the scenes, but if you're willing to say, this vague stuff, like what is it?
So officially my stance is, aside from what I've already said, Crowder and I currently work for, and he used to work for Blaze TV. We do actually have, some NDAs and non-disparagements, so I will not be commenting further. And I know that's frustrating, but that's why I'm not.
But then why did you make?
I'm on Crowder's side.
Yeah, but why did you make like 5 videos on it if you're gonna say now I can't comment?
Oh, I can't comment on what is not publicly available.
Okay.
I can talk about what publicly is out there.
Okay. So publicly, Hillary on video said he wasn't abusive. Why was that not reported on?
About him not being abusive?
Yeah, it was on video.
I mean,
and so,
I have problems with
you
the
had
way
something where you alluded in your video on him that he was abusive after you played the clip of him talking to his wife. So my question is, if you're going to report on that, why did you not report on the video of her saying he wasn't?
He wasn't abusive. Which video you're talking about?
It
was the one that I recently did with Jared?
It was no, not the one where you did with Jared. I'm saying there was video of Hillary Crowder saying that Stephen was not abusive, and all of the conservatives were super willing to throw him under the bus the last year, make a ton of money off of it, except for Tim.
Was I the only one?
You were the only one who I
Yeah.
thought was fair. I really did. I have never been so disappointed in conservatives because
there with Stephen, and I think with Stephen, like if it were just his divorce, wouldn't have talked about it, but he is someone who's in this industry who has a pattern of basically blowing up personal relationships. And I think
right, but that doesn't make him an abuser, right? You can be an asshole, but that doesn't make you abusive.
I definitely don't think he's like physically abusive or anything like that.
Well, yeah, but you alluded that he was like you said that he was abusing his wife in that clip. So if she has a clip that says, "Hey, he's not," I would think, "Oh wow, all the conservatives." You guys would be the first to report, except for Tim. He was the only one who did, and it's like you were willing to make video.
Well, are you asking like the ring cam footage about him?
No,
talking
it was
to his wife?
video of his wife in court, and she said he was not abusive. This is on camera. The nanny also testified not abusive.
I think my video specifically was about the nanny footage, which to tell your spouse that you do not love them, I do think that's emotionally abusive.
Well, I wouldn't say that's emotionally abusive. And because he says, you do not show me love. And what he was referring to in the video, if you really listen, pay attention, and there was a clip cut out, was that she was not showing him love because she didn't listen to him. And it's like trad wives. Why wasn't the question, why didn't you walk the dog like you were told?
Yeah.
But
If you're
Again, there's a lot.
Real
There's a
quick.
lot to do with the whole Steven Crowder situation that I'm just not going to comment on, like
Did-
publicly.
didn't-
Well,
did-
but you
real quick,
were
He's
willing to
litigious.
publicly make video after video after video
About what was publicly available, for
and
sure.
so is the nanny footage. So is like so.
But here-
Why don't?
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Isn't it confirmed that I could be wrong about this, that Crowder's wife deleted a bunch of footage from
Over
their
100. That's important. You would think.
Yeah.
That's
Cr-
something that
conservatives.
so actually, Justice Warrior did this whole breakdown about it. That's something that Crowder's team is alleging, but I don't know if the court itself has verified or backed it up at this
And
point.
I'll tell you why I knew it was full of shit when I first heard it, because I've interviewed so many men that have gone through the same exact thing. And what women do is they poison the well for years. So they'll go around to all of his friends and drop little tidbits of abuse. Now, the common ones are emotional abuse, physical abuse. Some throw in the pedo accusation. That's devastating to men. That's a devastating one. They'll say it about their family. So they'll do this for years. Then when they come out and say he's abusive, they have all of these people ready to back them up in white knight. And then, typically what you get is an out of context clip that they throw out there. And so I knew what was happening when I first saw the video.
And you can tell from her Twitter that she's obviously a crazy woman. And I personally think emotional abuse is a myth. I know you
I
said
agree with you on
seem
that.
to have a different perspective. Would you think emotional abuse is a valid reason to have a divorce if you support no fault divorce?
No, but something can be unacceptable behavior though, still within a marriage.
But
Absolutely.
who are you to tell a man how to speak to his wife in his house? Isn't that out of order?
I mean, you do that all the time. You call other men simps all the time.
But I don't tell them how to talk to their wife. That's your business.
That is absolutely not true.
Okay,
there are
name it. Go
yeah,
ahead.
for sure. There are
What-
tons of times where
Which
there will
ones?
be actual men in your comments saying
So when I
disagree,
when I-
and
when
you
I-
call them simps.
When I say simps, it typically means out of order. So typically when I say that, I'm referring to a pattern of behavior where they're putting women on a pedestal. That's typically what I'm describing.
But you'll say that about
this is
specific men
we're going to the what
talking
but we're going to the what about. You're changing the topic.
No,
who
this
are
is the
you?
same topic.
No, it's a different because
same topic.
my original question is, who are you to tell a man how to talk to his wife in his home?
Well, I don't-
Do you think you should be able to tell a man how to talk to his wife in his house?
I think that men should conduct themselves with biblical standards when it comes
But
to.
but answer my question. Do you think it's your place to tell men how to talk to their wives in their home?
I
Answer
think,
yes or no.
I think it is perfectly reasonable to say that a man should hold himself to a Christian standard in the home.
But, okay, so you do think it's your place. And this is what I mean when I say a lot of conservative women aren't really conservative.
It's true. What it
Why-
ends up,
why is
what it
that- why
ends
is that
up
not?
being
Why-
is
why-
because
woman
we-
sad, man mean.
Wait,
Woman sad, man bad.
Because you're first from a biblical point of view, you are supposed to be obedient to your husband in all things. So before conservative women will talk about the disobedience, their first thing is their tone.
Yes, the tone policing.
That's
Super
before
out of control.
But they never.
But-
and I could
Right.
show this because there is video after video after video. Not a single conservative woman said, "Oh, hey, she didn't listen to her husband."
Mm-hmm.
Not one. Not one. That's crazy to me. And then we want to say, like, men go get married to conservative women. Most of them aren't really conservative.
Let's bring up the Lauren Southern story, because I think this was actually a big component of Lauren's story. This article was written, I think it was Unheard. It was written by a woman who got divorced. And in the story, I think one of the issues was Lauren realizing that just being this obedient, good wife to this man wasn't working. He kept threatening to divorce her, and it seemed like nothing was working. That was her. I believe that was
that's
her
her
perspective.
side of the story.
For sure.
And so I doubt it.
But that's the
You
thing.
were just, okay, let me get this straight. Okay. So nobody asked question. You were this perfect angel. You were a perfect angel. All you did was listen to your husband, and then he threatened to divorce you all the time. Do you guys hear these stories? You believe this? Come on.
But that's why I mentioned biblical patriarchy. Lauren talks about how even before they were married, he would do things like leave for days on end, like not talk to her. There were red flags.
Why did he leave? And that's what we never talk about. A lot of times when men leave, it is because there is a negative behavior that we don't talk about. Why? For example, What if she cheated? I'm not saying she did. I don't know. What if she cheated? Would that be an acceptable reason for him to leave for 3 days?
I know, but
we don't
the
know.
point
We don't know
is,
because
even if that is a red
she gets
flag,
an article.
you have a
She gets an
responsibility as a
article.
woman to choose
Sure.
someone, to choose a strong leader for yourself. So if you're going into this 4 months and you're already seeing red flags, it's not trad to say, I will marry him anyway. Like, I've not seen Christian dating accounts say, ignore all the red flags.
Christian?